2024, a year of many elections, full of stupid ideas propagated by incompetent journalists. One of the most favorite ideas is to increase taxes on the rich, or put differently, higher taxes for the other people. There are endless articles endorsing higher taxes in spite of the fact that we have reached the highest level of taxation in the UK since the Second World War. This video explains one fundamental flaw. If you tax one group, say the evil landlords, it does not mean that other groups, for instance tenants, are unaffected. In fact, it is trivial to show that the impact of a tax only depends on market conditions. It is completely irrelevant whether the landlord or the tenant is forced to pay the tax. The outcome is exactly the same. The tax impact is transmitted by either a shift of the demand or supply curve. The effect is identical. In equilibrium, prices adjust, reflecting the additional tax burden and declining quantities sold. I make two arguments in this video. First, I show this mechanism using simple figures. Second, I formalize the result using a bit of mathematics. But the message is the same. Do not be fooled when politicians promise to tax the rich, the landlords, the Chinese exporters, and so on. In the end, we all pay the price. The market adjusts. A supply curve captures the producer's willingness to offer a product at a certain price P. So here you see the price vertically and the quantity horizontally. This is our supply curve. So if the price goes up, the producer is more willing to produce and offer a higher quantity. The supply curve has a positive slope. Demand, in contrast, reduces with price. Hence, the demand curve has a negative slope. Demand and supply meet, you see an intersection, determining the market price and the quantity sold, denoted P star and Q star respectively. And you see here, bouncy bouncy, the equilibrium condition. Now let's apply a tax T paid by the supplier. Now this is our starting position, and now the supply curve makes a parallel shift by the tax amount T. So you see it shifting up by the tax amount T. For suppliers, costs increased by the tax. Hence, they have to adjust their willingness to produce. The demand curve is the same, however, the equilibrium price adjusts. So this was our original price and quantity sold, and now you have a new intersection and you see a shift of price and a shift of the quantities. So the market price increases, as you can see, by a smaller amount compared to the tax, and the quantity sold drops. In the end, consumers also suffer as they have to pay more for less. Thus, the tax increase is transmitted to consumers. Exactly the same outcome is reached if consumers pay the tax. In this case, demand drops and the demand curve shifts by the tax amount T as indicated. The market price drops, affecting producers. So the outcome is exactly the same. The quantity is reduced as before and the tax is transmitted. Let's assume that our demand and supply curve are linear. We already indicated this in the figure, so as a linear curve, we have a constant term. You see that here, so that's small a. We have a slope coefficient which we denote alpha. And for the demand curve, we have the constant term, which is b, and a slope coefficient, which will be beta. And now we formalize it a little bit. So here's our supply curve S, which is A plus alpha Q. Q is our quantity. We know that alpha is positive because supply increases with price. In a similar manner, demand can be written as follows. So you have a demand curve D, which is equal to a constant term B plus beta and then Q. And again, we would notice that B is negative. Now, for an equilibrium to exist, we need to ensure that the constant terms fulfill the following inequality. So these are additional conditions here. So the constant term B is larger than A, alpha positive, beta negative, but this is kind of natural. Otherwise, you have no intersection, so there is no equilibrium. So in equilibrium, we just set demand equal to supply, and we solve these equations. You get an equilibrium quantity, and you get an equilibrium price. Now let's tax the evil landlords by the amount T, which shifts the supply curve vertically. So here we are, we introduce the tax, we shift the supply curve, and this of course affects now the quantity sold. So the new equilibrium means that the quantity sold goes down, it's affected by the tax amount, and this then is also transmitted in our price mechanism. Yeah, so we have first here the first effect of a price change goes up by the tax amount, but then of course the quantity goes down and partly this compensates for the price increase. So in the end, as you can see, everyone is a loser, and that's exactly how taxes work. As always, data, not feelings. Let's look at the facts, so don't get fooled if someone promises higher taxes on people you do not like. In the end, most likely you have to pay as well. Everything is dynamic, everything adjusts. I see you next time.